Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, October 4th, 2018. I'm Keith Tebow. On tonight's program, the city of Fall River still has plans to work with a private company to install billboards throughout the city. We have an update. We also have highlights of a dedication ceremony held at Diamond Regional Vocational High School. And we collected local reaction to the debate centered around Brett Kavanaugh, President Donald Trump's pick to sit on the Supreme Court. But first, let's check in with other news headlines of the week. We bring in Will Richmond, the digital news editor at the Herald News. Will, welcome.
Hi, Keith. Good to see you again.
Same here. Let's start with an item that we spoke about on and off throughout the spring and summertime. The Fall River Housing Authority. We had mentioned some stories from one of the elderly housing units. There was concern by some of the residents there that their facility wouldn't be restricted to only elderly, but also disabled residents. There was an issue at the time of the city of Fall River and the Housing Authority issuing and submitting a plan to the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department. And this week there was some clarity. The city did submit that plan, and now it looks like some of the other Housing Authority properties will now be open to young and disabled individuals. What's the update here?
Yeah, so this week, the people leading the Housing Authority met with residents of the Doolin apartments as well as the Bates Tower to inform them that both of those facilities would become available to residents who are fit into that elderly category and the disabled category, as you mentioned. This was something that they had previously said could be happening, and I guess in part this is due to sort of the waiting list that exists for people looking for these types of spots. I guess approximately the waiting list is mainly 70% made up of people that fall into that disabled category as opposed to 30% in the elderly category. So as the need for those spots have come up, HUD has said, well, you've got to make the accommodations, and these shifts are starting to take place in properties here in Fall River now.
I know one of the concerns from the residents that we heard from those at the Riverview Towers earlier this year was the fact that in terms of the young disabled residents, that may also include individuals who are battling substance abuse. And some of the residents are concerned about that type of element and what it could lead in their places of residence. Do we have any indication, does even the local housing authority have an indication of how many of those young disabled residents may be those that are dealing with substance abuse issues?
So no sort of exact determination on that, though, at the meeting at the Doolin Apartments, in which we had a reporter at, residents were concerned. They brought up that they knew one of those young disabled residents that was already living in that facility had an issue and had recently overdosed. The Housing Authority was aware of that as well. At that meeting, those residents seemed to say, we understand that it's not everyone that fits into that category that has this type of problem, but at the same time, they've already experienced firsthand, an overdose in their building and the effect that has on the other residents. So certainly it's something that has happened already, but not sort of to a quantifiable amount.
All right, moving on now to our next story. Amazon here in Fall River has been extremely successful in its operation in the industrial park area of Fall River on Innovation Way. This past week actually, the Amazon corporate announced that they're going to be raising the minimum wage at all of their facilities across the country. I believe there's over 100 now facilities across the country where they're going to be raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That's expected to take place, I believe, in a couple of months, and that will impact, close to 1,000 employees at the facility here in Fall River. Many of those employees will, when they started about a year or so ago, only making about $12 and a half an hour. So good news for those employees, but there was a story this week in the paper on how this may impact minimum wage in other industries and other small businesses here in Fall River.
Yeah, so already, even before this had happened, we had heard from through some business entities in the city that the wages being paid at Amazon were driving up the wages they were paying. This was, just sort of the ripple effect of this company coming in, and essentially the idea was, if you could pass the drug test and get in, then this was good news. You could pretty much have your pick of jobs. So as the sort of workforce fits within those categories, um, you know, Amazon's paying the most. That's helping to get a lot of people in there. And then these other companies are having to decide whether or not they have to increase wages to compete with that. Some have said, however, they're able to offer a little bit more flexibility in their work hours, the ability to take time off and that kind of thing. And that's where they've kind of worked to level the playing field on the wage issue.
Right. And I know it's, whenever we hear of wage increases, especially minimum wage, here in Massachusetts, the minimum wage, I believe, is $11 an hour. It's about to go up again, I believe, in January to $12 an hour. Always good for employees, but a lot of times, especially small local businesses that rely on a lot of part-time help and a lot of help that they feel is only a minimum wage job. It does impact their bottom line. And when wages go up, generally it's good for employees, but for some employers, especially some of the smaller ones, could be an impact. We'll just have to wait and see how this all plays out as Amazon continues to be successful here in the greater Fall River area. And I'm sure they're going to be hiring some seasonal help soon as well, right?
I would think so. I think as we start to hit this month towards the end of October that they really start to ramp up that hiring.
All right, Will, what else is coming up over the next few days?
Sir, well, as the Boy Scouts of America have been integrating girls into their programs, we take a look at one local troop that has had some girls join them and see how it's sort of affected this local troop and what the girls think of being part of the old boys club, so to say.
All right, sounds good. I've got to ask you, Will, before you go, are you the person who had that great artwork behind you? Are you responsible for that?
I am not responsible for that. I've got to give Emily Del Santo, one of our graphic designers and page designers here at the Herald News, full credit for that. We tossed the idea at her, and she threw it together within a couple minutes. So she's the artistic creative one here at the Herald News office.
As long as you do these segments from that conference room, you should have it change every week. Have something different there so people can be a little more entertained. Not that you're not entertaining, Will.
We are enough, Keith. There's more than enough here for us to entertain people,
absolutely.
Right?
All right, Will, have a great week. We'll talk soon.
All right, you too, Keith.
We'll have more FRCmedia news right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Developmental Specialist. People Incorporated, located at 4 South Main Street, is looking for a full-time developmental specialist to provide instruction and support to individuals with developmental disabilities. Job number 1108-1538. Help Desk Administrator. Blount Fine Foods, located at 630 Current Road, is looking for a help desk administrator responsible for ensuring continuity of technology services for internal customers by providing the planning, skills, and knowledge to support, maintain, and troubleshoot technology solutions. Job number 1108-1375. Welder. Taco Incorporated, located at 583 Bedford Street, has an immediate need for a full-time welder to perform a variety of duties involved in welding, assembly, and fitting of company products. Job number 1108-1431. Burlington Coat Factory, located at 181 Mariano Bishop Boulevard, is looking to fulfill the following full-time positions. Seasonal Retail Sales Associate, job number 1107-1776. Customer Service Supervisor, job number 1108-1949. Family Service Association, located at 101 Rock Street, is looking to fulfill the following full-time positions. Translator, job number 1106-3815. Clinical Social Worker, job number 1106-3798. For more information on these or other positions, visit MassHire JobQuest at jobquest.detma.org or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. The city of Fall River is one step closer to getting high-resolution billboards sprinkled throughout the city. On October 11th, the mayor's proposal to erect 3 billboards goes before the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for initial approval. Here's more.
If the state determines that the locations are acceptable, they will issue permits. At that point, the city is obligated to go out to a competitive process to determine the vendor who will actually construct the billboard and solicit the advertisers for the billboard. Once that's completed, the proposal needs to be made to the Fall River City Council, and specifically the Real Estate Committee, because the land on which the billboards will be erected is city-owned property. So the City Council will then be approving not only the use of the land for the construction of the billboards, but also I'm sure that they'll have some input regarding the financial terms that will ultimately be benefiting the city. The billboards will be at the top of Brayton Avenue, adjacent to Route 24, is one location. The second one is off 24, not too far from the water filtration plant, so that's visible on 24. And the third location is just outside Government Center, and that will be visible only for eastbound traffic on Interstate 195.
State Representative Alan Sylvia was recently part of an educational seminar in Santa Fe, New Mexico. In part, the session included information and methods to increase public safety throughout our nation's school system.
The relationships you make are probably the most important thing, because you learn that someone knows something more about this issue. You know, of course, I happen to be on the new high school committee, so I work closely with, as vice chair of Joint Committee on Public Safety, with our state in ensuring that we have all the bells and whistles with regard to school safety. And so some of that new technology that is really coming out every day. So that was very interesting to be able to not only look at some of this material working, but also meet with some of the people who have developed it and who produce it.
What was the most surprising form of technology for public safety?
We hear lots about Shot Spotter here in Fall River. Well, they have actually in classrooms where there's a Shot Spotter system in the school, and when that it can detect the difference between a backfiring of a vehicle, clapping of hands, and most specifically a gunshot. So if there's a gunshot, all the doors would lock automatically. And of course, it's those types of unique, that unique technology around lighting and sound and those things that, and of course, really making people feel safe. We want kids to feel safe. We don't want them to go to school with a fear of anything happening, and we've been fortunate in our area. Of course, we want to see that continue, working with our police, working with our first responders to make sure that we do that, and our superintendent's doing a great job.
A new outdoor dining patio at Diamond Regional High School's Room 251 restaurant was recently dedicated to former culinary arts alum Frank Santos.
This is a great day for Diamond Regional. It's a great day for our community. We're recognizing one of the really most remarkable people who has graduated from Diamond Regional over the past 50 years, a man who, while living in Florida, never forgot that his roots are in Fall River and particularly with Diamond Regional, Mr. Frank Santos.
Well, thank all of you for being here and for the wonderful work that the school is doing to provide some incredible students. And I'm about a year and a half behind schedule in Orlando building a townhouse, and it's only because we cannot find the craftsmen that we need to finish my townhouse. It's a year and a half delayed. Plumbers, electrician, craftsmen, and that's what you're providing. And I tell my contractor in Orlando, go to Diamond and get the students, have them come down and finish my condo. I really want to move, but thank you.
Mr. Santos, we have a recognition from Governor Baker, I believe one of our great friends and a friend of vocational education as well. And Governor Baker writes, on behalf of the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I am pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation in recognition of your professional accomplishments and your dedicated service to the Diamond Bengal Education Foundation this first day of October in the year 2018.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
The Mass Hire Career Center in Fall River is holding its latest job fair at Government Center on Wednesday, October 17th. Job seekers who want to be prepared to impress potential employers can learn how to do so before that event.
Every single day we're open 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday at the Career Center, and we have any of our workshops. We have our job club, we have our computer lab, our resource area, connection with employers on a regular basis. So everything is happening here in regards to finding employment.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Cricket. Cricket here. He's a 7.5-year-old pit and bulldog mix. You can see his very lovely eyes there. He's got some party eyes. Can't really see from back here, but he's a little bit short, a little stocky, but that's okay. He makes up for it with a very nice personality. He came to us as a stray, but it's pretty clear he had an owner that loved him. He came in good condition. He knows all of his cues. He's got a very nice disposition with both people and with other animals. And he doesn't play a ton, but he definitely enjoys the company of people. If you sit down with him, he'll come over. You call him over, he comes over in this little U shape for a nice scratch, and he likes a good rubbing. But he's also, he's 7.5, so you can find him sleeping sometimes like this. Very even-keeled temper-wise. He's actually a really great dog. So if you want to come down and meet him, we're located at 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts, and it's Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Today on Hot Dogs and Cool Cats, we have 2 ferrets. We have Smokey on the side and Brownie. These guys were brought to us a couple weeks ago. Smokey is obviously a little more energetic. He is 1 year and 11 months old. Brownie is an older man. He's about 4 years old. So these guys are super fun, super lovable. They're definitely goofy and full of a lot of life. They can be extremely mischievous, and you can know exactly when they're doing something wrong because they'll look at you while they do it. So if you guys are interested in these guys or any of our other furry friends here at Forever Paws, definitely pay us a visit. We're open every day 11 to 4. Besides for Wednesdays, we're located on 300 Linwood Avenue. Come visit us.
Lafayette Durfee House, Fall River's link to the American Revolution, offers special events throughout the year. Here are 2 of the events taking place this month. On Wednesday, October 17th, master storyteller David Mello will tell spooky ghost stories by candlelight. Stop by between 6:30 and 9 o'clock p.m. and listen to the spine-tingling tales. On Sunday, October 21st, Lafayette Durfee celebrates its grand reopening after being closed for the past several months for renovations. Come see the results, take a tour of the historic residence, and enjoy light refreshments. The grand reopening will be held from 1 to 4 p.m. The location is 94 Cherry Street in Fall River. For more information, go to LafayetteDurfeeHouse.org.
Welcome back. Fall River joined the rest of the country this week in lending its opinion to the saga facing the United States Senate in approving the Supreme Court nomination of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. FRC Media News asked Congressman Joseph Kennedy, former district court judge and current Fall River Corporation Counsel Joseph Macy, and Bristol Community College student Casey Laviolette for their thoughts on the Kavanaugh nomination.
The feedback that I get, certainly from my constituents, are that Judge Kavanaugh should not be seated on the Supreme Court. And look, I agree with that. I don't think he has. I watched Dr. Ford's testimony. I watched most of his opening statement, Judge Kavanaugh's opening statement as well. I thought Dr. Ford came off as extremely credible. I think he took an extraordinary amount of courage to come forward and tell her story. I understand that Judge Kavanaugh has denied every aspect of the allegation, and I do think that there are other comments that he made over the course of his testimony that we're now finding out are a bit problematic. The one thing that I think is important to remember, though, is this has become a politicized debate over something that, one, should not be political, and two, just because Judge Kavanaugh doesn't get there doesn't mean you're all of a sudden going to be a progressive judge on the bench instead. It's going to be another conservative judge. There's no scenario where I foresee a progressive judge taking that spot. So the question really is, should Judge Kavanaugh, who's got these credible allegations of sexual abuse and sexual assault in front of him, and I think now a lengthy track record of having not told the full truth or perhaps have lied to you as senators and the American public, should he be seated on the Supreme Court, or should somebody else that doesn't have that cloud, that baggage, and those allegations? And I would hope our Senate counterparts weigh that question and give it its due weight.
I thought that she was very candid, forthright, and I thought that he was not. I thought he was evasive. I thought he gilded the lily or ungilded the lily, and I don't think he was candid. In terms of characterizing his performance, it's not exactly a judicial term, but it's a term of art. It's feigned indignation. So you pretend to be offended by something that you don't want to answer or you don't want to answer directly. And I thought he was good at it. I don't think it helped him. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the judge, but if I were judging it, it wouldn't have helped him.
Now, Ashley, tell us about the canons of judgeship and what judges have to abide by.
Well, judges have very strict canons of ethics, particularly in Massachusetts. You have to be very careful who you associate with. You have to be very careful even who you socialize with and who you might accept a drink from or where you go. It's a very kind of cloistered profession when you are a sitting judge.
So you're thinking his emotional outburst wasn't the best?
I thought it was disgraceful. If you are a judge, particularly at the second highest level, because he's a federal appeals court judge, even though those arguments tend to be a little sterile and not the kind of arguments you get in a trial, you should be able to control yourself. And for him to exhibit that lack of temperament, even though I can understand he's taking it personally, he's personally challenged, I thought it was inappropriate.
As a psychology major specifically, I'm really impressed in the way that Ford was speaking at the hearing, because she definitely has the knowledge and the background to support everything that she's claiming, because she knows how the brain works and how trauma works. As far as Brett Kavanaugh goes, I think it's really telling about our time that the president is backing him, which being emotional is completely okay, but as a Supreme Court justice nominee specifically, I think having that kind of emotion while speaking it's tricky, and I don't know if it belongs in the Supreme Court, and I just believe that nothing should move forward until the FBI investigates the case. I think we should all be absolutely devastated if he gets elected despite all of these allegations.
I'd like to thank CNN for providing one of the photos you just saw in that previous piece. Finally today, Fall River lost an icon this week. The Reverend Robert Lawrence, longtime pastor of the First Congregational Church, passed away Tuesday at the age of 88. If you've been to many an event in Fall River over the last few decades, you've no doubt seen Reverend Lawrence. He was not easy to forget. His commanding presence and resonant voice made him one of the city's most recognizable figures. His contributions to his church and this community have been profound and will impact our region for decades to come. We send our condolences to Reverend Lawrence's family. That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can catch FRC Media News Thursday and Friday at 6 p.m. and online at our website, frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday.